Everybody, welcome to another episode of Not Just Women Petpreneurs with your host, Mary Oquendo. And my guest today is one of the guys in the industry. So, hello, Jim. This is Jim Atchison.
Hey, Mary, how's it going? Great to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you're here too. Now, the first time I met, well, the only time I met Jim was at Super Zoo, which is an interesting conference. My understanding is that the first interesting conference you've been to?
It was, yeah, it was a great experience, but that was my intro to it.
Yeah, so your first trade show was Super Zoo.
Yeah. It was a lot. It was a lot.
So River didn't like ease you into this.
Now went
No,
full.
she took you up to the edge of the cliff and pushed you off.
That's right. That's exactly right. Baptism by fire, I think it is.
Sometimes that's the best way to do things.
Yeah, I like
You
it.
know, after you're blowing the fire off your fingertips,
Yeah, right.
you know, okay, this is not such a bad idea.
Yep, you get to see it all.
All right, so let's start off with how did you get involved in the pet industry? Because you're not a groomer, correct?
I'm not now.
So
Um,
tell me what you are.
Sure. I'm an attorney, primarily based out of Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New York as well. I was introduced to the grooming industry through River Lee, the savvy groomer. We had connected and kind of worked on a number of things for her in terms of her business. And I really became kind of fascinated with one, how much is involved in the grooming industry, and two, a lot of the similarities between the grooming industry and just issues that I see typical small businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs run into. My experience prior to that was having my corgi and golden doodle, which may be a little controversial, but my corgi and golden doodle take it to my groomer.
Okay, I am sure River has set you straight as far as the care of the golden doodle.
She has.
Okay, good. Little check mark for River there.
That's right.
So just to say, groomers as a whole, it's not that we have issue with the doodles. We don't. Okay. It's we have issue with the lack of maintenance and not understanding if you don't do the what needs to be done on a coat that is extraordinarily high maintenance, we're gonna have to shave your dogs. And there's a lot of disconnect, and that's where the problem is.
Yeah, unfortunately, dogs don't necessarily come with instruction manuals, especially when you
No.
don't know a lot. Like myself when I got into it. Candidly, I got a golden doodle because it looked really nice, and I heard about everybody else getting them.
Okay. Yeah, then fortunately they do not. But anyway, I am sure you are now maintaining your golden doodle to river standards.
Of course, of course.
Okay. But let's get back on track.
Sure.
Okay, so you are a lawyer and you have seen a need in our industry, correct?
Yeah, that's right. A very unique industry that I think has a lot of both unique needs and needs that you kind of generally see in small businesses.
Okay. What are some of the things that you see that grooming businesses have in common with other businesses?
Yeah, a big part of it is the need for your typical business organization, employee handbooks, forms and contracts and stuff like that. When you're in a service industry like the grooming industry, a lot of the paperwork is kind of form based, customer forms, employee forms, and stuff like that. Also, with respect to licensing and setting up, leases and setting up the business itself. It's something unique, though, to the grooming industry, although it's spreading across others, is employment related issue, and really the big driver being a W-2 employee, a groomer as a W-2 employee versus using, 1099 independent contractors.
Okay. Okay. No, we've seen this switch over the years. I've been in the industry long enough to say where I could be, well, well, that's not how we do things, Jim.
Right.
To you know what? Times are changing and we need to move with the change. And if we
Mhm.
want to be taken as a legitimate profession, then we have to act professionally.
That's right. That's right. And make sure, everybody's being compensated, legally, under the guidelines and in a way that's fair to everybody.
Right. Right. So what have I know you had started to set something up with River for one of her programs. And I think my understanding is from that you've sort of like had this great idea for your own business.
Yeah, that's right. I had worked quite a bit with River on some of her training programs and modules that she offers, specifically dealing with hiring and firing employees, classifying employees, and stuff like that. And kind of based on the feedback, and again, speaking to people at SuperZoo and just in the industry generally, I kind of saw a need for kind of specialized kind of legal forms and documents, that groomers could use, maybe without the cost of having to go to an attorney and having them, draft one on a flat fee or an hourly fee basis. But better than something like LegalZoom, where you're kind of just getting a generic operating agreement or a generic employee handbook or something like this. So really what this is geared toward is providing a set of, forms, documents, kept live and kind of kept accurate, up to date as the law changes, that while not necessarily specifically tailored to each grooming business, although we could do that, is at least tailored to kind of the specifics and the nuances of the grooming industry.
Okay. So, and I do teach a forms class, and I'm like really clear. These are the forms I set up for myself. Like when I first started my business, you know what? That were at the time of formation that they were legal.
Right.
My question for you, okay, was okay. So I started a business in 2002. Okay. I retired in 2020. All right. So 18 years as a business owner. Um, do you think that maybe at some point during those 18 years, I should have ran those forms through a lawyer again?
Yeah, probably. 18 years is forever, in terms of the law and the legal process. A lot of changes have happened, both in terms of, what can be in contracts now with electronic documents, e-filing, and stuff like that, and just changes in the law generally. I think it's always good to, if you don't have an attorney who looks at them periodically, one of the benefits here is that, when we create a form library, obviously monitor, kind of developments in the law as they come up, and then we're able to update documents, revise documents in real time. A good example of this is do not compete provisions that you might see in an employment agreement. At one time, that was kind of standard in a lot of employment agreements. But the law has moved very far away from that. States like California specifically don't allow non-compete agreements. Massachusetts is heading that way. And a lot of the case law is moving to against the enforceability of those types of provisions. So as the law changes, we can kind of update the language to make sure that you're getting the most protection possible.
Okay. So when I went, so I hired an attorney in 2002 when I was forming my LLC, and I showed him my contract that I had with the corporate that I worked at. All right. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you just make sure you set your business within whatever the miles of the store you were at." And I'm like, "But I'm mobile."
Yeah.
And he just looked at me blankly and he says, "I don't know how to answer that question
Right.
because I don't have a storefront."
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. My technically base of operations was well, which is my home,
Mhm.
which was well outside the circle of any of the corporates anywhere.
Mhm.
But yet I'm now going to other people's houses. And he's just looked at me and says, I don't know what to tell you.
Right, right, right. And that is an area where but both in terms of setting up your own business where maybe you had a non-compete in the past, kind of checking what, those requirements are and the enforceability of those provisions. And again, that's just an example of kind of the nuance in the grooming industry, especially in the mobile grooming industry, where you may have employees that are going straight from, their home to clients, as opposed to stopping first at a main place and in terms of paying and stuff like that. And then in terms of, what's your geographic area as it may apply to other agreements that you have, when you're driving, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, all over whatever area you might cover. It gets pretty nuanced, in this industry.
All right, so I have a couple questions for you. It's fairly common and it was in my terms of service too, by the way, was a no-show fee.
Mhm.
All right. And for me, my no-show fee was the full price of the grooming.
Mhm.
Is that legal?
Well, it varies state by state. Typically, something like a no-show fee is legal as long as it's not excessive, and it's reasonable. Certainly, in a situation where you're setting aside that time and not taking other customers and other clients in that time frame, a no-show fee, with no show, no cancellation or anything like that, something where requiring kind of the full payment, isn't something that typically is going to be found to be illegal, or something that you can't put in an agreement. Again, really, it comes down to, is there a reasonable basis for charging this amount? And
Gotcha.
not being able to service another customer because you set aside that period of time for someone who didn't show up certainly would be considered a reasonable basis.
Okay. That's good. That's good to know because there's a lot of arguments on whether or not you can or you can't. But again,
Yeah.
that might be also state by state too.
Yeah, it could be state by state, and a lot of times, when people kind of do discuss it more in lay terms, it may be that, they got advice from, either the internet or a lawyer, but a different situation, a different circumstance, a different time, where, it doesn't apply to that specific set of circumstances. So certainly it is something that you have to check out on, but generally speaking, I think that it's okay. And I tell people all the time, I'm a lawyer, not a priest. So I look at it from the legal perspective, and the ethical perspective as it applies to the law. How it looks in terms of your business model and your community, that's something that's more of a business decision. But from a legal perspective, I think it's certainly reasonable, and I would encourage people to include a cancellation fee, because you don't want to devalue your services by making people think that they can just not show up, mess up your whole day, with no consequence to them.
Well, you know what? I've had to do my no-show fee um, or 3 times in my entire career. Okay. If it was a legitimate reason, that was fine. Legitimate meaning that they were either at the ER vet or they were at the ER doctor.
Right.
That's legitimate.
Mhm.
Okay. So in one case, it was a double appointment. And I knew when I charged that, they were never going to do that to me again.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they never did.
That's right. That's right. And it's important to remember too that, if you do have a customer agreement that, clearly sets out what the no-show fee policy is, you can always make an exception, like you said. And, maybe if it's a longtime customer that never had an issue, that missed one, you could always waive it. Where it becomes more difficult is if you don't have a written policy like that, and then you start to kind of use it on an ad hoc basis. One, from a legal perspective, it could kind of be, treating people differently. But two, from a customer relationship perspective too, if someone, sees that someone was charged a fee for no show, but another person wasn't, and it wasn't set forth ahead of time, you're just going to wind up, with more trouble than it's worth to just have it done right the first time.
Yeah. And also the other thing is like enforcing your no-show fee. Because if you continually give people a pass, they start to walk all over you. And that is in one case when I put my foot down and collected the no-show fee. Um, I would I knew I would never see them again. And I mean, honestly, I was okay with that because
Right.
they cost my business so much money.
Right. Right. And is that, and you have to kind of balance too, and everyone's, business circumstance is unique, but you also have to consider too, like River often says about your dream client, is someone who does that, who kind of knows shows and doesn't give you the courtesy of a heads up or a cancellation and then, complains or doesn't pay a fee. If that's someone you really want, to be as a customer, for your business. I know something for, at least for me, in my business, and I did realize too how a lot of similarities between a law office, especially a small one, and a grooming business. That there's a lot of similarities there in that we're both serving people, we're both serving clients, and we have a lot of the same issues. I get no shows and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, it really stinks because you know what? No show means no money coming in.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So some other forms that I had were various waivers.
Mhm.
Okay. And some were waivers, but some were actually policies. Like I created a waiver for anal glands and ear plucking, which towards the end of my grooming career, I didn't neither. Well, I never did anal glands.
Mhm.
Um, but so that was policy.
Mhm.
Okay. But there were like other waivers, aggressive dog waivers. The one I probably used the most often was my senior dog,
Mhm.
senior pet waivers. But there's also matting releases and stuff like that. But anyway, so the point with the waivers, how specific does the language have to be so that the client understands what they're asking the groomer to do, that they are aware of the risks, and yet that will hold up in a court?
Right. And that's a great question. I think a lot of people, when they think of a waiver, they think of kind of signing something, usually that you don't read, myself included, but signing something that just says, if anything happens to you, you can't sue us. Well, that's not necessarily something that's enforceable, or else everybody would just hand out waivers all the time saying that if we do anything, you can't sue us. The important part of a waiver is really explaining, what the situation is, and then, like you said, with a senior dog or an aggressive dog, what the risks are, because a lot of times a customer might not know, that something that a groomer may be doing, or with an older dog, there may be a risk of, excitement or something like that. So you really do want to spell out, here's the situation, here's the problems that may arise, and you're aware that those problems exist, and you're waiving any sort of claim against the groomer or the shop, for any of those injuries that might occur that you were disclosed in the at the get go. It's a very terrible way of explaining it, probably, but really, it comes down to informing and disclosing. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what the risks are for your type of dog. You acknowledge that, and you agree that if any of these things do happen, you waive any sort of claims against the business.
Okay. I remember I was in Hawaii on vacation and we were going to do one of those little ATV tours through some ranch. And they had us sign paperwork. And I will always remember this paperwork because I was the most blunt paperwork I've ever signed in my life. You
Right.
may die doing this,
Right. 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 Right.
and you and your heirs will not sue us.
Right. Right. Right.
You can suffer egregious bodily harm, such as amputation, spinal cord injuries. I mean, it was, but basically, you could die or get, traumatically hurt doing this, and you're aware of that, and you will not sue us.
Right. Right.
It is on you, including medical bills.
Right.
If you
Right.
want to take the tour, you sign right here. And I'm reading it, and my husband's looking at it. I don't know what I'm reading. Says I'm going to sum it up for you. If you or I die doing this trip, we are not going to be able to sue them or go after them for medical. You still want to do it? And he's like, hell yeah.
Yeah, right. That's
So
right.
and I think when people say, well, people won't sign my waivers, we signed a waiver saying we could possibly die and it's on us
Mhm.
if we do this. And we signed it and we did not have a problem to doing that. I
That's
mean,
right.
there was, the slight little hesitation and then, yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, right, right.
We only live once.
I know, right? It's either sign the waiver or not do it, and you really want to do it,
Yeah.
right? So like anything else, it kind of comes down to a risk benefit. All right, I understand there's a chance that something might happen, but it's a reputable business, that's been operating for a while, so I'm willing to accept that chance.
I think somebody yelled out, when was the last time somebody died on this trip? I don't remember what the answer was.
It must not have been that recent if you did it though.
Yeah. So I think we were all good. So the point being is it's your business. And if you want people if they want to utilize your business, it's your rules, your terms of service, and your policies.
That's exactly right. You really want to have, control over the services that you're doing, how you're doing them, or else you're just going to wind up, if you kind of bend to the client or the customer, too much, you're going to, wind up with some unnecessary stress, kind of doing things differently for each person, which, creates problems with, consistency and stuff like that.
Oh, and I will just say from experience, every single time, and I mean every single time I bent my rules for somebody, it has come back to bite me in the butt.
And that's common, sometimes, they might say that no good deed goes unpunished. But even, in the law industry, I've seen those same things. It's the one case that you kind of do somebody, and with no charge, or you do it for a small charge, and then that one blows up into the hugest, case out there. And now you're spending a lot of time working on stuff that isn't making you any money, versus spending your time on, those services that you're actually getting paid for.
My again, no good deed goes unpunished. So it's Christmas Eve, like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I slept in because I was worked like crazy up until that point, and I had Christmas Eve off before Christmas. And the
Mhm.
only reason I answered the phone was because I knew they were looking for a groomer, and just so that they could just move on to the next person.
Mhm.
And I answered the phone, and I guess I sounded tired. Okay. And I told him, unfortunately, I was not getting him into my schedule. And he wrote me a scathing one-star review about how the tired sounding groomer.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. And I didn't even realize that one-star review was there for like years later because,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's Yelp. So,
Yeah, no, right, right. No, it is, it is difficult. And again, I think that, kind of comes down to expectations, and unfortunately having to deal with, difficult consumers, that don't appreciate, we're running a business like everybody else. We've got, family, friends, other things going on that, we want to make the time to do. And sometimes people, don't appreciate that. And, they can't get a dog groom on Christmas Eve, and, they decide to set fire, to the business, which is, really unfortunate. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do about it from the legal side of it. And there are actually some recent laws that have been passed that actually prevent people from having customer agreements where they agree not to post any sort of negative reviews and stuff like that. So it is a difficult process. But unfortunately, I think they say that, you can please some of the people all the time. You can please all the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time.
yeah, you can't. So why bother?
That's right. That's right.
All right. So in addition to, what would you say in your estimation what should be included in a good terms of service?
Yeah, really what you want to do is, you want to set out, what the fees are going to be, obviously, what the additional charges might be. Like you said, what some of the risks might be, similar to what a waiver, depending on the breed and the type of pets that you may service. You want to have a provision in there that kind of says if there is, a dispute between us, it'll be in, your local jurisdiction, your state, your home. So you're not potentially getting dragged into court someplace else. What the payment expectations are, stuff like, no-show fees and all that, the times that dogs should be dropped off, times that dogs should be picked up. I think a lot of people, as I've learned, consider groomers to also be like, a pet daycare service, where they can kind of drop off and pick up whenever they please. And then also, I would look at, what are some of the difficulties maybe unique to your business that you've had, and rather than having to explain them and, keep them consistent, on a case by case basis, you can kind of have those in the terms and conditions as well.
Okay. Yeah, my website, which is online education, in my terms of service on my website, it says, if you are going to sue me, it has to be in Clallam County,
That's
Washington.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And that's that. I'll be honest, with a lot of businesses, that's a way that they kind of avoid, are able to avoid lawsuits, because there's always a risk that you could be pulled into litigation in all different states. Obviously, hopefully not, but you do want to have a provision that says, we agree ahead of time that if something goes wrong, you don't have to hire lawyers in different states and stuff like that. It can be local. And there also could be stuff like an arbitration and all that, if you kind of want to avoid having to go to court in a more informal, usually less costly and faster process.
Okay. All right. So, you have currently a website?
I do, yeah. Petgroominglegal.com. Still in the process of the kickoff, although you can check it out as we get ready to kind of launch this. Still putting some documents together. The idea is I like to get everything out there right away, then rather than have stuff trickle in, that so that everybody can kind of see what the universe is. But on the other side of it, in terms of just providing kind of one-on-one services, consulting and legal help. I've been doing that this whole time, but the product that I think that's going to help groomers a lot, in terms of a form library, hoping to get that live pretty soon.
Okay, good. I'm excited to hear that. And here's the one thing too. I'm a big believer that if it's something that is out of my wheelhouse, I'm going to hire to do that.
Mhm.
Because no matter what it is that you charge me, it's going to be done better and
Mhm.
faster than if I make the attempt to do it.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. But at the same time, it's you still have to hire the right person. Okay.
Mhm.
So like my accountant, he is a CPA that specializes in small business. He
Mhm.
doesn't specializes in large corporations. It's small businesses, and that's what he's really, really good at.
Mhm.
Okay. When I hire an attorney for my business, it's going to be a business lawyer. I
Mhm.
really don't want a lawyer who is a real estate attorney,
Mhm.
or he does wills and probates,
Mhm.
or an accident lawyer.
Mhm.
Not going to be as much help. Or no, I take that back. He's not going to be as good as a help as if I just hire somebody within their specialty.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, because I think it's important too. And I always tell, people this when they speak to me, potential clients that come to me, I tell them, look, talk to another lawyer or two. Not all lawyers are going to approach things the same way, not all lawyers are going to charge the same way. And like you said, not all lawyers have, background and experience in specific areas of law. Because I think, this is somebody that you're going to be putting a lot of your faith and your business in the hands of. I think you're going to want to make sure it's someone that you're comfortable with, in terms of experience. And there's nothing wrong with asking, hey, what types of things, have you done before? Do you have any other clients in the, grooming industry or, small business industry? Is there anybody else, I could talk to as a referral? Legal services are at the end of the day, just like any other service business, where you can shop around a little bit, and you can go and get referrals and ask for recommendations and references and stuff like that. So I do think it is important to have someone that you're comfortable dealing with, that you feel confident in, and that has a good basis for experience in whatever it is that you might want to do, and also someone who can tell you what they can't do.
That's really, and that's a good point, My
Yeah.
husband needs his knees replaced.
Right.
And so we set up an appointment in Seattle in the big orthopedic wing of the hospital. And the guy took a look at the x-rays and he goes, yeah, no, not me. Okay. This is actually the wrong office. You do not want sports medicine.
Yeah.
You want upstairs, sixth floor.
Right.
I will send the x-rays upstairs for you. You need to go make an appointment with them.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Uh, Yeah, that's exactly right. I do a lot of business, corporate law, and litigation. But I can tell you, I know enough about tax law to know that I don't know that much about tax law, criminal law, family law. Those are just other areas of law that I know I don't have the experience or comfort level to represent someone in those types of matters. But I can point them to someone.
Mhm.
I can give them, a couple of names of, whom I would hire if I had an issue, or lawyers that I know that, personally that are good and knowledgeable and stuff like that. But you do want to make sure that it is someone that, can cover most of what you want to do. You may have something here or there that you might have to bring somebody else in on or something like that. But you want someone that you can give a call to, and kind of, hey, here's the issue that I'm dealing with. What do you think? And feel comfortable that either that person knows how to handle it, or they'll be candid with you and say, there might be somebody who can do it cheaper, right? I can certainly learn a lot about criminal law to represent somebody there, but it's going to cost a lot more because I got to learn the law, on that part of it, versus, it might be something that I can send to somebody else that could, handle it in a half an hour or an hour. So you do want to make sure you really want to interview it. Similar to like if it was an employee, while the person's not going to be working for you, in the employee employer sense, they are going to be working for you in the sense that, the lawyer's there to advise you, and counsel you. At the end of the day, the client runs the show in terms of what's done and what's not done. I'm just, laying out the options, explaining what the risks are and stuff like that, maybe giving some recommendations. But at the end of the day, it's the client who tells me, what to do, and makes the decision. So, you shouldn't feel like, either, you shouldn't interview a lawyer, or, just the person that you talk to is the one that you got to hire. I'd really make sure it's someone you feel comfortable with, as if it was an employee you're going to hire.
Okay. Yeah, and just to one other illustration to how important it is to get the right person. So I have a regular general physician. I go in there once a year. He gives my blood work, tells me to lose weight, yada, yada, yada. Okay. If he were to tell me I have a heart problem, do you think I'm going to have him treat me for a heart condition?
No way.
No, I'm not. I'm going to go find a specialist.
That's right.
Okay. Because he's going to tell me change my diet and lose some weight, and that should take care of the problem. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe,
Right.
maybe,
Right.
okay,
Right. Right.
be certain.
Right. That's right. That's right. You want someone who's kind of seen, all sides of it,
Yeah.
someone who just has that experience. It's kind of funny. I've been doing this for 16 years now, and I would think that at this point I would have seen pretty much everything, but almost every case, almost every situation has its own little, uniqueness or nuance to it that, you kind of change it up. But when you have somebody who has broad experience, having done it for a long time, you just gotta, the more likely you are that you're going to have a good product, and someone that can kind of, work with you, as your business grows.
Okay. All those are all good points. So again, so what are you planning on going to another trade show? People can
I'd
join.
like to. I haven't figured out which one yet. I know you were up in Hershey. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to, but it was a great experience. I really enjoyed, meeting a lot of the people there. There are just some amazingly talented people in the grooming industry, in terms of, running a business and grooming as well. I really enjoy, helping folks like that out, because, a lot of times it's someone, who, maybe started working for someone else and then started their own business, which is difficult to do. I've done a lot of construction law in the past, and just because you're an excellent carpenter doesn't mean you're a great owner of a carpenter contracting company. So,
Oh yeah, that's huge. You could be a phenomenal groomer Okay. But it doesn't make you a good business owner. It is a totally separate skill.
It is, and it's a skill that you really don't get taught anyplace, and a lot of it's by kind of trial and error, learning how to do it. But I have the benefit, and other lawyers have the benefit of seeing it done wrong, a lot of times, and then also seeing it done right a lot of times. Kind of working with a lot of small businesses. Even though as a lawyer, the legal side of it is my expertise. I'm able to bring a lot of practical experience to kind of, running a business and, kind of some basic finance, and to be able to tell you what you need to have somebody else look at. It may be obviously a tax or an accounting issue. I'm not going to be able to resolve that, but it is something that, me or another lawyer should be able to recognize and say, all right, this is something an accountant has to this is something an accountant has to deal with, or a little bit, a more specialized field can kind of handle that, because it's hard. Running a business is hard,
Oh yeah, it is. It
every day.
you know what? Well, no, that's not every day, because I take 2 days off a week and I
There you go.
don't look at my business. Uh,
Good.
but yes, it is. Sometimes the biggest complaint that I hear from like people who are business owners think that they're working from the minute they get up to the minute they go to bed, and not maybe taking into consideration that, if they just hire other people, maybe they don't have to work 16 hours a day.
Right, right. Especially, hire someone to handle the stuff that you either, you can't do, or you don't want to do,
Don't want to do.
or you're not
Yes.
doing well. Right, right.
I've always said it. Part of the reason I have a CPA, right? And I do my own bookkeeping.
Yeah.
So, all right, not my favorite task to do, but
Mhm.
I don't have employees. It's just me. I can
Mhm.
suck it up and I can do it.
Right,
Okay.
right,
But I am not going to do my taxes, and I am not going to figure out my quarterly tax payments. Okay.
right.
I'm sure there's some magic formula to it, but if I had to do my own taxes, if somebody made me do my own taxes, it would take me, I don't know, a really long time, and it would
Right.
not be a good job. Okay.
Right,
And I
right,
would hate every single minute of it.
right.
And in fact, I may hate it so much I may not do it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. No, which is, the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Can't I just write a check and just say, take my word for it? This is what I owe
Yeah,
you.
right, right. I wish.
I don't think it works that way.
No, no, not quite. Not yet, at least.
Yeah. Though it would be nice.
Mhm.
Just give us this amount of money and you're good.
That's it. Yeah, right. Whatever's fair.
Yeah, whatever sounds fair. We're good. We're
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
It
I'll
sounds
sign up for
fair.
that.
I'll
That's
just
right.
write the check. I don't have to do anything else. I
That's
don't
right.
have to keep track of this
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, yeah. Put a lot of accountants out of business though, and some lawyers too.
But you know what? It'll make my life easier.
I know. No, it really is. And that really, it kind of comes down to, the most difficult part of owning a business is probably getting that work-life balance,
Yeah.
where you work so hard to, bring in money, and you're supporting other people, you're supporting employees and stuff like that. And, you want to be able to enjoy it, you want to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor and your hard work. But, it's really a big part of that is making sure, as the business owner, you're focusing on the things that are making you money, and the things that are costing you money, or that, it's not your core business. You really have to evaluate, is this someone I should have somebody else take a look at and handle instead? Because if you're someone who's, bringing in the money for the business, then whenever you're not working and doing that, you're essentially losing money at that point.
Exactly. I'm going to tell you what my best hire was when I was working. Okay. I am not I am not detailed oriented. And that's probably my downfall. All right.
Mhm,
That's another story.
mhm.
But part of that is cleaning up the mobile grooming vans. I did not want to do it.
Yeah,
Okay. I hired my husband. I paid
yeah,
him $50 a week, and it was once a week he would go and he would deep clean the van. All
mhm.
right. That was his jam.
Yeah, right, right, right.
Okay. He cleaned it, and then he got to bitch and moan about how sloppy and messy and disgusting the van was. And it was a good thing I had him. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm paying you, and it's well worth my $50. And then
Yeah,
he
that's
takes
right.
that,
That's right.
and he go, and I'd give him $50 in cash, and he says, "Hey, let's go out to dinner and a movie."
There you go. There you go. Right. Win-win. Win-win. You know,
Win-win situation. And you
that's
know
right.
what? He won too because he enjoyed cleaning. And
Yeah.
then my van was spotless, and so to do daily cleaning was okay. And then
Mhm.
I would just make sure I saved that, the husky or the Malamute
Right.
for the very last appointment of the week.
That's right. And then you open the door and just a big hairball comes out, you
Oh
know?
my God. So I had a German Shepherd in my schedule, and the dad comes he knocks on the van. I'm like in the middle of doing the dog, and I'm like, come in, and he opens up the van door, and then all his hair comes out, and he looks at all the hair coming out, and he just says, "Never mind." He apparently what he was going to ask if I could get more hair out of his dog.
It's never ending.
Yeah, I know. He just looked at all the hair coming out. I said,
Yeah,
"Your dog
yeah,
has a
yeah.
lot of undercoat." Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Maybe come and brush your own dog in between appointments, and
That's
you
right.
have this problem.
That's right. I remember, with my corgi, we had a little, the Furminator,
Yeah.
brush and, when kind of the dog, especially if we were outside and he was kind of just hanging out, you furminate it for a little while. And it seemed that, even if I did it for 2.5 hours, it was always the same amount of hair coming out. It was always filling up. And the dog always looked just the same. Like, for 2 hours with hair everywhere, all over the place outside. And the dog, while certainly cleaner, it didn't seem like it, where did all that hair come from?
Yep. All right,
But
Jim. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. I really appreciate it.
of course, yeah. Thanks for having me, and certainly good luck to all your listeners. Enjoy.
And just one more time, just your website, just say it again one more time.
Sure, petgroominglegal.com. And also on email if you need to reach out to me. Easiest way is just petgroominglegal@gmail.com.
Very good. All righty. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mary. Have a good one.
You too.